Lady yields back. Chair now recognizes Mr. Burchett from Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Regan, some of these things have been asked before, but as the 435th most powerful member of Congress, sometimes they get to me a little late, so I'm going to ask them again, and I'd appreciate you giving good answers for my folks back in Tennessee. Yeah. There's been some tests. You all have issued some rules targeting numerous sectors, substantially increasing the cost. For example, your all's rule on lime manufacturing plants imposes cost of $2.5 billion on a small industry with a $2.3 billion in revenue. Do y'all think it's necessary, considering your own scientists determine emissions from lime plants are acceptable with ample margins of safety?
I think the rule that has been proposed is done in a way that we believe maximizes protection from an environmental health standpoint. But as I mentioned to a colleague earlier, this is something that I would love for our staffs to have a conversation about to be sure that we're all on the same page in terms of the direction that we're going.
I would like that a lot. A lot of folks in my area, this could be very damning for them. When you testified before the House Science Committee last September, you said about the lime rule, I think what we want to do is to ensure that we are meeting the letter of the law with as much flexibility as possible. Does that sound accurate to you?
Yes, that's the goal.
Okay. Well, let me ask you then, why did y'all disregard the Small Business Administration's recommendations for more timely and flexibility when issuing the lime rule?
Well, I'm not quite sure if we ignored the small businesses regulation, but again, that's something that I'd love to have a discussion about to see if we're on the same page.
And I'd appreciate if you get back to me on that. If you do, I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Can you explain how increases in compliance costs impact businesses that are trying to stay afloat in today's already challenging economic circumstances?
Well, compliance complexity can be looked at a few ways. I think that what we try to do is evaluate and analyze the administrative burden and the compliance burden of any of our rules. And we weigh that against the opportunities for these companies to invest in new technologies that might provide efficiencies in some other areas, while also lowering the pollution burden on the environment and individuals. So we take a look at all of it and try to come out with a win-win-win.
Let me follow up on that. Does your agency engage with stakeholders at all levels to determine exactly what the impact of these regulations would be for businesses of all sizes and for the folks that they serve?
We do. Typically, we engage with all of our stakeholders numerous times, privately and in public venues.
Is a public venue, is that like a hearing type of situation? Okay. Well, witnesses have warned us that this committee, that if the Biden administration continues at the Obama administration's regulatory pace for 8 more years, the cost of these rulemaking could exceed $60,000 per household. $60,000. What impact do you think that would have on low and middle class Americans?
I'm not sure that I agree with the $60,000 number. It just doesn't comport with our analytics. Listen, in many regards, for some of the things that we propose, that some have said increased costs, we actually will see lower costs, lower prices, whether that's the entity that we're regulating or the health benefits that surrounding communities may pay. One example is thinking about the HON rule and looking at, for some of our chemical facilities, for less than 1%.
The what rule?
The HON rule.
Okay.
For less than 1%, they can invest in a control technology that will lower cancer risk by 96%. There's a lot of regulations that we have that we see significant cost-benefit opportunities, but seem to be distorted when
Sure.
we have these conversations.
Yeah, I would warn you, though, if it was, if we wanted to save lives, we would just bring the speed limit down to 15 miles an hour and tell everybody to, drive a moped or something, because, there would still be the cost associated with all that. And the cost avoidance, of course, is always something to take into consideration. But I think the taxpayers, in this case, are going to be left holding the bag. And I'm very much aware of that situation. So, but thank you very much for being here, and I yield, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.